Good morning, everyone. My name is Bianca Gonzalez, and I'm the Bullying Prevention Program Coordinator with the Riverside Medical Clinic Charitable Foundation. So I just want to welcome everyone to our Alzheimer's Family Support Group webinar that we're doing in partnership with Alzheimer's Los Angeles. So we're truly appreciative of that. I also want to go ahead and thank the Riverside Medical Clinic for being our sponsor. We truly appreciate your continued support in all of our programming that we offer. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and have a short Q&A towards the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions, please feel free to add them in the chat box. If you're not aware where the chat box is, it's towards the bottom of the screen. And you should be able to leave any questions or comments there. And yeah, I want to go ahead and introduce our presenter for today. So her name is Jennifer S. Lee, and she's the Field Project Coordinator and Trainer for the Front Porch Center for Innovation and Wellbeing. So I want to share a little bit about her. She holds a diverse professional background in research and teaching. She is an advocate for emerging technology in the pursuit of optimizing the social engagement and quality of life through the lifespan, and is committed to narrowing the gap of the digital divide. Jennifer holds a BA in English from UCLA and a master's degree in gerontology from USC with a specialization in gerotechnology. She has completed internships with the USC Center for Body Computing and has worked on numerous USC research projects within the departments of Occupational Therapy, Keck School of Medicine, and Gerontology. So at the Front Porch Center for Innovation and Wellbeing, their mission is to explore innovative uses of technology to empower individuals to live well, especially into their later years. They welcome all caregivers to learn about the technology that they've been exploring and implementing throughout Front Porch communities. So you can expect to hear about voice-first technologies such as Amazon Alexa and Google Home Hub, virtual reality, hearing and vision assistive devices, and more. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and give it away to Jennifer.
Thank you, Bianca, and thank you, Efren, for inviting me to speak. It looks like we have some more people coming in, and I wanted to remind everyone, since this is a relatively small group, feel free to unmute yourself or raise a hand, or just ask a question whenever, because it'll be more like a nice intimate conversation rather than me just talking to a screen, which is always fun. So yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question, and don't be afraid to interrupt me. So let's get started here. As Bianca mentioned, we have a really quick, just gonna keep that chat box there. Bianca did mention a little bit about the Center for Innovation and Wellbeing at Front Porch, but just to give you a little bit of a higher level of what Front Porch is, we are a nonprofit that owns and operates 10 full-service retirement communities across California. And at the Front Porch Center for Innovation and Wellbeing, we explore and pilot technologies across these communities with the overarching objective of social engagement and the opportunity to live a healthy and empowered life. And as you can see here, these are some of the projects that we work on. We do quite a bit of work with virtual reality, voice-first technology like Amazon Alexa, Google Voice, and Google Nest Hub Max. We do a lot of work with social robots, exergaming, and of course, telehealth is very big right now. So a little bit of context and background about the work that we do. A lot of our projects are rooted in engagement and social isolation and loneliness, because we know the auxiliary effects of loneliness and social isolation. We know that lacking social connections can be as damaging to health as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. We also know that about 19% of people between the ages of 62 through 92 are lonely and rate their health as worse than non-lonely people. We also know that loneliness, not to be confused with living alone, but loneliness may be linked to a 64% greater risk for dementia. And I want to clarify that social isolation is the objective physical separation from other people. So living alone, living like not in a community setting, just living alone. While loneliness can be the subjective distressed feeling of being alone or separated. So you don't necessarily need to live alone to feel lonely. You can live in a community, you can live with your family, a spouse, a partner, and still experience feelings of loneliness. So like I mentioned, a lot of our work is rooted in fighting loneliness and social isolation through engagement and empowerment. And I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of how we do this. So all of our technology is meant to serve a purpose and address a problem. We're not exploring technology just to explore technology and just to put something in someone's room to babysit them. We believe that technology always has to have a purpose for engagement and connection, and we want it to be as personal as possible. And we also see technology as a tool and an enabler. It's not the solution per se, but rather it's the bridge for connection. And on our website, we have quite a few quick case studies that we've published. And feel free to head to our website to take a look at that just to get a better idea of what we do, how we do it, and the results of our pilot studies. So over here is a snapshot of our website, and throughout this presentation, I'm going to be talking about our resource guide. It's called Staying Home, Staying Connected, a resource guide to engage and connect in times of social distancing. It's a mouthful. Basically, we developed this resource guide as a response to the concerns of social distancing right when COVID started, or I guess I should say when the lockdown started last year. We wanted to give our staff, our on-the-ground staff, a resource guide to offer them on how they can apply the technology that they had at their community. But we also created a different version for direct to older adults. So if you go to our website, you can also use this QR code here. You can see the two different versions of the resource guide. We have one for senior living providers, caregivers, and we also have a resource guide for older adults who might be aging in place or living at home, who want to access these suggestions and resources through their own device. So, kind of as a preface, throughout this whole presentation, I'm going to be talking about the resource guide, but I'm also going to be talking about some of the projects that we've been working on now. And yeah, just some of the projects that we've been working on now. So if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. If you have any comments, feel free to chime in. So PSAPs, personal sound amplification products. PSAPs are a pretty new technology onto the market. They're not regulated by the FDA, meaning you can purchase them at any like big box store, Target, Amazon. They're very easily accessible. And what they do is they amplify sound around you. So kind of like AirPods, Apple AirPods, they do have a setting where you can turn up the environmental sounds around you and thus hear the world around you better. And PSAPs are relatively low in cost, especially in comparison to hearing aids, which, as we all know, they cost a fortune. Insurance usually doesn't cover them, and you just have to go to the audiologist so many times to get tested, to get fitted, and it's a really difficult process to get acclimated to your hearing aids, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. So PSAPs are a really great solution for people who have mild to moderate hearing impairment. It's not going to be the best solution for people who have really severe hearing loss. So yeah, for those with mild to moderate hearing loss, PSAPs could be a very good like gateway introduction. If before you decide to jump in and get hearing aids, PSAPs could be a good tester. So these are 3 PSAPs that we have tested out and piloted at our communities. The new Hera IQ Buds Boost, and they actually have a newer version called the IQ Buds 2 Max. The Bose earphones, I believe as of, I think of yesterday, Bose actually has come out with the FDA approved hearing aid for the consumer market. So I'm not sure what that's all about entirely. But basically, it's a very amped up version of a PSAP. So it seems to be like a hybrid between a PSAP and a hearing aid that'll be accessible to the consumer market, most likely carried at Amazon, Target, and stores like that, and at a very discounted price in comparison to an actual hearing aid. And then AirPods as well can also serve as a PSAP. And I want to talk about a few mobile apps that we've piloted just to give you a better idea of how accessible it is to enter this world of hearing health. So Petrolex is the first mobile phone app that I really like. It starts you off with a hearing test to just to get an idea of where your hearing is at baseline level. And then from there, you can create different hearing environments and profiles in order to customize the sound enhancements and filters according to your location. So as you can see here, you have the office setting, home profile, and you can create a profile for like dining at an outdoor restaurant or maybe the classroom setting. So all of these different hearing environments, they adjust according to the sounds around you. So for example, if you're in the office setting, you would most likely want to diminish maybe the sound of a generator or the air conditioner flowing. So you would want to decrease those very low frequency sounds. Whereas, let's say you're dining at an outdoor restaurant, you would probably want to decrease all of that background chitter chatter so that you can hear the person in front of you more clearly. And you would probably want to diminish all of those really high pitched sounds of the utensils clinking together and clinking on plates. So those are just examples of how you would customize your hearing environments. Second phone app that I really like is called Hearing Aid Sound Amplifier. This is available only on the Apple App Store. I know that Petrolex, they have a Google Store version and Apple Store version. So hearing aid is pretty simple. There's 3 levels of audio amplification. There's the amplification location, overall volume, and then the mic location. And then you can get even more in depth with your hearing customization with a 12-band audio equalizer, which basically you can adjust the sounds to account for your listening environment. So like we talked about, you would want to change it if you're in the office setting versus if you're walking around outdoors, or maybe you're just at home trying to talk to your loved one face to face. And I also want to state that all of these apps, they work best with the with wired headphones with a microphone. So I know a lot of older adults don't have wireless Bluetooth headphones, so it's good to use these apps with just the wired headphones, just because the Bluetooth signal kind of gets in the way with the hearing frequencies, and it just creates a really bad very bad blurry like sound. The last app I really like is called Mobile Ears. So this is available both on the Apple Store and Google Play Store. I really like this app because it's simple. It's very simple. It just has one dial to turn the volume up or turn the volume down. And it's the contrast color of the app itself is really great for those who might have vision impairment. And also it's free. So it doesn't hurt to try it. If you want to download it, there's no cost at all. Yeah, so it's a really good way to kind of test the waters if you're interested in trying out this sort of technology. So that's what we've been testing out with hearing. I see Efren has raised his hand. Do you have a question, Efren?
Yeah. Which one of these devices would be best for someone that has dementia?
Yeah, that's difficult to say because there's such a wide spectrum of dementia. I would definitely say that for anyone with dementia, I would suggest that they use it, that their caregiver helps set them up with it, you know, maybe connect it to their phone, get them all set up, teach them how to use it, and just, you know, really strong hand holding throughout the process. Um, I think that these PSAPs in particular could be a little bit difficult for someone with dementia to control, just because you have to have a smartphone to control it. So all of these devices, they come with an accompanying smartphone app you have to download, and then that's how you control the hearing profiles. So it could be a little bit complex for someone with dementia to use. Um, I would recommend starting out with one of these smartphone apps just because you don't actually have to buy a device. You can just download it from the App Store and you can use any headphones that you have lying around as long as it has a microphone. You can just plug that into the smartphone. So this would be a really good way of kind of testing the waters of PSAPs without having to splurge on, let's say, maybe like a $300 device. So yeah, I would suggest one of the apps, starting out with one of these apps, their mobile ears or hearing aid sound amplifier, just because they're so easy to use. Um, and then just saying how they like the technology and if it actually benefits them. Because for some people think they have like mild or moderate hearing loss, when in fact they might have severe hearing loss. So sometimes it doesn't do anything for them at all. So yeah, I would suggest trying it out with one of the free apps first.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so going into vision and the types of technology that we've been exploring. So we've been testing out two live vision assistant apps. So Be My Eyes and Ira are really cool vision apps that connect you to a live volunteer, and it uses the camera of your smartphone to tell the person what they're seeing. It can help with wayfinding, navigation, but it can also be really helpful if you're trying to read something with like very small font or read a bill. So it would use the camera of your smartphone and you would just point it to whatever you're trying to read, let's say like really tiny ingredients, and you would point your camera at the whatever you're trying to read, and then the person on the phone will just read that aloud for you. And we've also been testing out some vision assistant apps that use artificial intelligence to translate text to speech. It can recognize people, faces, products. So these are just some of the apps that we've tried out. And because it does use artificial intelligence, it's not always 100% correct, but I mean, we can say the same for something to do with humans like Ira or Be My Eyes. And of course, the more you use it, the more it's going to get used to the things that you look at. So like the more that you use the app to look at a certain person, the more familiar the app is going to be with recognizing who that person is. And we've been doing quite a bit of work with voice first technology, not just in the time of COVID, but in general. We've been working with voice first technology, and a really quick definition for what voice first technology is. A voice-first device is an always-on, intelligent piece of hardware where the primary interface is voice, both input and output. So this is an Amazon feature that kind of gives us a glimpse into how these really big companies are making technology more accessible. Let's see, I do have a chat. Looking for it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I do want to remind everyone, if you want a copy of this presentation or any of the information that I provided, feel free to email me. Just throw my email address here. I will share it at the end as well. So this new feature called Alexa, What Am I Holding? This is just an example of how Amazon is recognizing that a lot of their users do have a need for these type of accessibility settings. People with vision loss, hearing loss, mobile impairment. So this this feature in particular, Alexa, What Am I Holding, was developed to help people who are blind and with low vision. It was developed to help them see what their grocery items were and to kind of just tell them what they're holding. So we actually had a pretty big hand in developing this feature, which is why it's so exciting for us to see them actually coming out with it, because it's just a sign of direction where they're moving. And I'm sure you're all pretty familiar with some sort of voice-first technology. If you're not, this is kind of what it looks like. Amazon Alexa, we have Google Assistant or Google Nest Hub, and then of course the Apple Siri on your mobile phone, and then they have the Apple Home. And this is a little bit of insight as to the work that we've been doing with Alexa. I did include QR codes if you want to raise your phone and scan it with your camera. That'll lead you to the our website so that you can read the study. We did find that 75% of participants use their smart device at least once a day. 100% felt the Alexa made their life easier overall. And 71% felt more connected to family, friends, and the community since the start of the Alexa pilot. And this was only a very small sample size at one of our first communities, but since then we have deployed Alexa to essentially all of our 10 communities. And just to give you an idea of how people are using it, a lot of people are using it for weather, getting to know what the weather's like before they head out, alarm and timers, which can be really helpful for medication management and kind of creating an agenda for your day. Music, of course, news, and calendar, to-do list, agenda, word definitions, spelling, and games. And of course, staying in touch with friends and family through text and calling. And this is how we've kind of suggested, we've offered our residents some suggestions of how they can use Alexa in the time of COVID-19. So using it as a platform to access news and up-to-date information on COVID-19, how to get the vaccine, where to get the vaccine, using it as a source of entertainment and communication with friends and family. And we've also encouraged residents to use it as a digital assistant to kind of give some structure to your day, because as you know, sitting in the same spot or sitting at home all day kind of, the day kind of blends into one long day. Whereas if you structure like morning routine, you have your afternoon routine and your evening routine, that kind of makes the day flow by a little bit easier and feel a little bit more normal. So we have recommended residents, structure their day, do a meditation throughout the day and exercise. And of course, staying in touch with friends, family, connecting it with their smartphone so they can easily call or message their loved ones. And this is another example of how Amazon is starting to acknowledge their older adult market. So a relatively new feature that they released is called Alexa Speak Slower, and it does exactly that. It'll slow down the pace of how Alexa speaks, and they developed this um, after a lot of their users thought that Alexa spoke too fast and they just needed something a little bit slower, and the adjustment to her voice is really helpful for some older adults. Next, I want to talk about sensory rooms. So sensory rooms were developed, well, I should go back. So we came up with the idea to do a sensory room in our memory care center at Vista Del Monte, which is our Santa Barbara community. We were inspired by Snezellen rooms, and if you're not aware of Snezellen rooms, it was developed in the 1980s by Dr. Snezellen, and he wanted to create an environment where autistic kids can express themselves without having to use words, language, and instead just use their senses to express themselves, to communicate, and to engage with other people. So we thought this would be a really interesting concept to test out in our memory care center, um, to address some of the challenges that a lot of other memory care centers experience with their residents, things like anxiety, stress, disruption throughout the day, self-isolation, wandering, appetite loss, sleepiness, lethargy. And we wanted to improve that resident engagement with staff and family and provide ultimately an overall productive and positive environment. As you may know, memory care centers are very public places. It's really hard to get any sort of privacy outside of your own room because, I mean, you have your room and then everything else is public, so it could be a little bit difficult for some residents to adapt to this. So we wanted to create a very safe and private environment within this communal setting. So these are a few snapshots of how the room looks. The entire room is Alexa enabled, meaning Alexa is pretty much the brains of controlling this whole room. Alexa controls the smart lights, she controls a TV, she's even connected to an aroma diffuser in the background and a fan. As you can see, we have 2 lounging massage chairs that the resident can sit on with their caregiver or staff member, family member, and they can just relax and lay back and enjoy. I believe they're enjoying the ocean setting where an ocean scene comes on the TV, the lights turn to blue, so it kind of feels like you're underwater. The fan starts blowing, so it feels like you're at the beach. So we found a really great success in the sensory room, especially when a resident is in a state of crisis. And we've done quite a few interviews with staff members and caregivers about their needs and what they were doing before the sensory room, and in situations where a resident was feeling these challenging emotions, they would typically just remove them from the situation, ask them to go for a walk, recommend a favorite activity of theirs, like if they know that they really like arts and crafts, they would say, hey, do you want to do some arts and crafts with me somewhere else? But since then, they've been using the sensory room as a way for the resident to kind of decompress and remove them from the situation. And it's been really successful. We really encourage caregivers to not use this room as a babysitter room, but rather use this alongside the resident to kind of help them talk through their emotions, or even, you know, talk about something else that's completely unrelated from what they were experiencing, and just get their mind off of whatever was distressing them. And we found a decrease in the amount of medication that residents were being given. And overall, we found it to be a really favorable solution for caregivers. They found it to be really easy to just lead them into this room and say like, hey, do you want to check out the ocean with me? And then all of a sudden the resident becomes like, what ocean? What are you talking about? So they found it to be a really engaging solution where residents can come and decompress and, just be distracted from whatever they were experiencing. That's the sensory room. And, we realized that not all communities have the space for a whole room. So we've also come up with a sensory cart solution, and it's basically a sensory room on wheels. Sensory cart brain is the Google Home Hub. So rather than the Alexa, we have the Google Home Hub controlling all of the commands and routines. We do have a projector connected to it and some mood lighting over here. And then we have the diffuser, aromatherapy diffuser, as well as the tactile objects like the social robot and then the weighted pillow. So we rolled out the sensory cart to a couple of our communities, and it was a little bit more difficult for caregivers to get used to using, just because with any intervention, it's going to be something new for them to learn. It's going to be a little bit of an interruption to their regular routine. But we did find it pretty successful, especially because you can roll it around, you can bring it from room to room. So we found it to be a really great solution for those in assisted care or even independent living. Music and memory. So I wanted to touch a little bit on music and memory and how important it's been during this time of COVID and lockdown. Music and memory is a really, really great solution that anyone can do at home in the community setting. And it's based on the very simple idea that music can enhance and transform someone's life, and everything. The whole music is created through personalized playlists, and all of the music is stored on an iPod or some sort of MP3 device. And it's been proven to vastly improve the quality of life of people living with dementia and other cognitive challenges. It's been proven to reduce anxiety, increase social engagement, and assist with multitasking and activities. So these are just a few photos of how music and memory can be used. It can be used while doing arts and crafts, while working on something else, or if you just want to use it as a way to improve your mood and reduce anxiety. So we did a study back in 2015 with Villa Gardens and an affordable housing community. So we studied about over 200 participants in total. And I'm going to back up here to take a look at my notes. So we did find an overall improvement to mood, a 46% improvement in overall mood. We found almost 70% of staff observed that the program was substantially effective in reducing and easing pain for residents. And nearly 60% of staff observed that it was effective in reducing disruptive verbal and physical behavior and replacing that sort of behavior with a better mood. And after interview with staff, they reported that participants who were known to be a little bit socially withdrawn or isolated were much more alert and socially engaged after partaking in the program. And again, the QR code does lead to our impact story on music and memory if you're interested in learning about how we conducted the pilot and more details on the results of the study. All right, so now I want to go into the online resources that are also mentioned in our resource guide that's also available on our website. So mental and emotional health it's super important, especially May being Mental Health Awareness Month. Um, to promote social calls, which a lot of organizations are doing at this time. And social calls are exactly what they sound like. They connect the older adult with a volunteer on the other line. And these can be very topical calls where, you know, you just talk about whatever, or they can be calls where the volunteer will check in, make sure the person takes their medication, make sure that they're doing okay. But you know, for people who live in a very isolated setting, social calls can be a really great way to get some socialization into your day and just to chat to someone and not feel like you're so disconnected from the rest of the world. So Covia offers a really great social call program. Not only do they offer the one-to-one social calls, but they have a network of classes and workshops that are held entirely on the phone. So if you go to their website, you can see the list of classes that they have going on for this year. Or you can call in and ask them what's going on. Rendeavor Friendship Volunteer Network is also a really great organization that's doing social calls. Rendeavor is actually a virtual reality program that works on reminiscence therapy and social virtual reality opportunities, but they've kind of pivoted their services to offering social calls just because they realize the importance of maintaining social connections throughout this time of isolation. The UCI Assist program, which is composed of UCI medical and nursing students. They're offering social calls for anyone who's interested. And these can be, again, these can be topical, silly calls, or these can also be a little bit more clinical check-ins. And then the last resource that I like to point everyone in the direction of is the World Health Organization Mental Health Considerations Handbook. And that basically has a lot of information on what sort of mental health issues or concerns to look out for in the time of COVID and the resources to address them. So again, this is all included in our online resource guide, which I will also give you the website to access later on. And physical health. So we all know that, you know, when you're sitting at your desk all day or when you're sitting in your room all day, it could be hard to maintain your physical health. So these are 3 online resources that I really like to suggest to residents and caregivers. The first one is Telavita, and Telavita is really great. They are a live and interactive platform where they have instructors and professionals from all sorts of backgrounds to lead these classes. So not only do they have Tai Chi, Zumba, stretching, but they also have arts and crafts classes, trivia, games. There's just so much. I really strongly recommend you check out their website. Also, National Institution on Aging's Go for Life series have a YouTube page where they have a lot of exercise workouts where you can do from the comfort of your own home, and a lot of them are like focused on certain areas of the body or for certain purposes. So like if you want to have better balance, they have classes for that. They have classes for fall prevention, and it's all free and it's all on YouTube. And then lastly, Core Power Yoga. I believe they're still offering free on-demand classes. I know they were at the start of lockdown, and I believe they do still have some available on their website. Lifelong learning. So this is something that I like to recommend to our residents that, you know, they typically like to do TED Talks and engage in lifelong learning, and they're always curious to learn new things. So arts and culture Google.com is a really great place to start if you're interested in if you're familiar with Google Maps, you know that you can drag the little yellow guy and then start walking around places. So it's the same idea with arts and culture Google. You can become the little yellow guy and walk around famous museums like the Louvre. You can walk around, you can see paintings and works of arts up close. So it's a really cool like perspective to see some really great artwork. EDX is a website where they offer over 2,500 free self-paced classes, and these are classes that are taught by professors from MIT, Berkeley, Harvard. So you're going to get a lot of different topics, things like psychology, business, technology, pretty much everything you can think of. The third resource that I'd like to suggest is Mather Telephone Topics. So this is similar to the Covia social calls, where you can join in on webinars just over the phone. So this is really great for people who don't have a tablet or a laptop and they just have their flip phone or their home phone, but they still want to partake in taking classes and webinars. This is a really great solution for them. And then lastly, the Lifelong Learning Institute, the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. Osher partners with college campuses and universities to help older adults enroll in classes and keep them on like either the semester schedule. So this is really great for people who need a little bit more of a structured learning environment. Technology, education, and tech support. This is a really hot topic as everyone is getting used to using their laptops and their tablets more frequently. There's going to be problems that arise. So I like to recommend these three resources for tech support and learning a little bit more about technology. GCF Global. GCF Global is more so if you want to use technology for professional purposes. So it can show you the basics of how to use things like PowerPoint, Word, Excel, all of those programs you would use in an office environment. The Senior's Guide to Computers, I really like this as a tech support resource because it has very simple terminology. It breaks down lessons into very digestible form, so it's not too much all at once. And yeah, just the way the lessons are structured are very easy to understand and very older adult friendly. And then the last technology resource that I like to share is called Tech Boomers. And Tech Boomers, as they offer a little bit more up-to-date advice on things like how to use eBay, what TikTok is, how to use social media, dating apps, things like that. So it's a little bit more like pop culture oriented and up to date. I know we're running out of time a little bit, so I'm going to kind of speed through these last slides. I have about 6 more left, so I might be talking a little bit more fast than usual, but feel free to chime in if you have any questions or comments. Another resource that I like to recommend are Caregivers and older adults are virtual volunteering opportunities. You know, when you don't have control over your environment and over the things that are happening around you, and especially when everything in the news is all really, it just seems so chaotic. Sometimes the best thing that you can do for yourself is doing something for someone else, which sounds really confusing, but virtual volunteering is a really great way to help you feel more connected to your community, more in control of your surroundings, and it gives you a better sense of autonomy and feeling like you're able to contribute. So Covia Well Connected is a really great way for you to share and contribute your knowledge. Covia Well Connected is the phone program where you can take classes online. Take classes by the phone, but you can also teach classes. So let's say you have a very niche interest and a lot of knowledge in like poetry in the middle century. You can actually teach a class on the phone on this topic. So it's a really great way to connect to others and bond with any passions that you might have. Cards for hospitalized kids. I know some of our communities were creating these cards for hospitalized kids with people in their assisted living and memory care centers, where they would actually, it's a really fun arts and crafts opportunity for people to create these cards and then send them off to kids. Knit a Square is a really cool organization where you can knit just a square and then you send them into this organization and they sew them all up and they create blankets out of these squares and then they distribute it to kids in South Africa who are living in orphanages. So yeah, these are just a few of the virtual volunteering opportunities, but there's a ton more offered in the resource guide, which I strongly recommend you check out. All right, so handheld virtual reality adventures. So this is something that we released at the beginning of lockdown, and the idea was to offer people who were stuck at home because of COVID. We wanted to offer them. We wanted to offer them an opportunity to travel, to get outside of their comfort zone, to learn some new technology, and to virtually travel to other places. So as you can see here, this woman is using a virtual reality headset connected to her smartphone. And from here, she's able to access virtual reality through YouTube or through some of these apps that you can download on your smartphone. Both Apple and Android is Within VR, Veer VR, and New York VR. So we actually created a handbook on how to access these virtual reality platforms. And if you scan this QR code, you'll automatically be directed to the our VR handbook. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about COVID-19 cyber safety resources, because as we all know, there's so many scams happening right now. There's a lot of scams happening right now, and with more older adults being kind of forced to go online and do their business online, of course, that's going to give a lot more opportunity for scammers to take advantage. So our top 3 tips that we like to recommend to caregivers and residents are to 1, always question what you see, question the validity, don't take anything for what it is. Number 2 is to double check for validity and authenticity, and this could just mean a simple Google search to confirm that the organization that you're donating to is an actual organization, a quick Google search to make sure that the company that you're getting emails from is a legitimate one. And then number 3 is to always ask your friends and colleagues for help and to educate those around you. I know that a lot of people feel a bit of shame or like, oh, how did I not know that this was a scam? But people are getting so advanced with their scams that there's really no reason to feel ashamed. And it's always a good idea to reach out and ask a friend for reassurance if you're a little bit unsure about something. All right, and then these are some of the scams that are going around and recommendations. of how to confirm whether it's a scam or not and what to do if you feel like you are being scammed. And again, this is all in our resource guide, which I will share with you at the end. And then lastly, there are some COVID-19 cyber safety resources that I like to share. These are kind of like comprehensive guides of the types of scams and frauds that are going around and how to best protect yourself and how to discern whether something is a scam or not. And then lastly, I like to offer all of the caregivers some suggestions on how to connect to each other, especially in this, as we move to this even more digital age, it can be a little bit more difficult to reach out and find some sort of common ground. I really like Reddit as a place to connect, not just for caregiving, but for everything. If you're not familiar with Reddit already, it's basically a really huge online platform where you can join these different subreddits, which are kind of like topics, very specific topics. So they have all of these different subreddits where you can connect with people from all over the world. So there's our caregiver support, our caregivers, our dementia, and our Alzheimer's. And then I also like to recommend Facebook. Stories for Caregivers is a really great group that is a space for caregivers from all over the US to connect, share their stories, share their challenges, and offer advice. And of course, some other resources and opportunities for connection: ARP, agingcare.com, hopegrows.net, and Alzheimer's Los Angeles. So that is the end of my presentation. I've included a QR code here, and this will take you to our resource guide. You can download the two versions. We have the one version for senior living communities and caregivers, and then we have the version that's for older adults who might be aging in place and who want to access the resources from their own device. So at this time, I will stop talking, and if you have any questions or comments, I encourage you to speak up. Feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand.
And you all can use the chat box, and like she said, you can unmute yourself as well. I have a question. These are, I added it in the chat box. These are all amazing resources. Are they adaptable to individuals that speak a different language?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, so the resource guide, we did translate it to Spanish and Chinese. As for some of our, I don't know if our VR guide was translated. I believe it was translated to Spanish as well. I'll have to double check on that. Yeah, our resource guide was translated to Spanish. If you have language that you want it translated to, I can possibly help with that. So just let me know.
That's great. And I love the portion of your presentation, music and memory. I think for anybody, I think music is so beneficial. And like for me personally, I'm really close to my great grandma, and like every morning she has to listen to, she listens to like Facebook Live, and it's like her virtual church that she listens to.
Oh, wow.
Choir is singing, and it literally just like, she has to do that every morning because that's what like brightens her day. But it's also a way for her to interact virtually with this community because she's unable to be with them physically due to everything that's been happening. And she's already older, so she's not really able to go. But it just makes such a difference. So I agree with that. Music is amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know for a lot of people, not just older adults, but even for me too, music has been such a lifesaver during COVID and isolation. Just like, you know, having this feeling of being surrounded by creativity and just feeling inspired in a time where everything seems so dull.
Yes.
Diane Miller is asking, is this recorded and will it be shared? If so, Diane, I can actually send you a copy of my presentation and a link to the resource guide. If you're interested, you can just email me. My email is on the screen there. As for the recording, I'm not sure how that will be distributed. Could you have any info on that?
Yes, it's recorded. So within 24 to 48 hours, we'll go ahead and upload it on our YouTube channel. And then I'll be sure to send a follow-up email to all of our attendees. So if it's easier, Jennifer, you can definitely provide me your presentation and I can send it to everyone if that helps as well. But the recording, I'll be sure to share that once we upload that on our YouTube channel. And feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have previous recordings on there as well that you can take advantage of and view those. And you can just search us, we're RMC Charitable Foundation on YouTube. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Jennifer, for a great presentation, as always.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, that was amazing. So
And if I may, I just want to say Alzheimer's Los Angeles, we're a local nonprofit where we help family caregivers caring for a family member with Alzheimer's or other related dementia. We have plenty of free services and programs for caregivers to become better caregivers for their loved one. So we are our helpline number, if anyone wants to call, that's our gateway to all of our free programs and services. It's 844-435-7259. I'll repeat that, 844-435-7259.
and I'll be sure to share that information to Efren in our follow-up email to everybody. So then that way everybody has that number.
Thank you.
Awesome. So on that note, I just want to go ahead and thank Efren and Alzheimer's LA for partnering with us with our webinar today. And I want to thank Jennifer for providing us such just beneficial and useful information and resources that everybody can take advantage of. I know I'm going to take advantage of a lot of these for some of my family members. And yeah, I just hope that everybody has a great rest of your day. And Jennifer, if you want to go ahead and close it out for us.
Yeah, I think that was a perfect closing. Thank you everyone for listening, and Bianchi, I'll be sure to send you a copy of this presentation and a link to the resource guide, and that way you can just share it with everyone that way.
Awesome.
So thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.